Hiya, I'm Felicia and I'm filming my final video today to document 44 days of regulatory silence. Today I've just published day 44 of my silent diaries, documenting 44 days of regulatory silence to my campaign to request an independent medical review of my medical condition and urgent mental health support to be put in place. I have had correspondence from the Professional Standards Authority, for which I thank them, encouraging me to give feedback, which I may do. They sent me a link to Samaritans, which doesn't, in my view, constitute intervention or support. It feels like deflection. Samaritans aren't really going to be able to help with statewide institutional harm of 12 years. But effectively, there's been 44 days of silence. I've obviously tagged in 40 MPs across the campaign repeatedly, 30 regulatory bodies, numerous advocacy legal bodies requesting urgent help, and I've not had a response, which is heartbreaking. I think I'm most sad about the MPs, actually, particularly some of the female voices within the group that I tagged in, Baroness Hollins, Rachel Maskell, Dr. Rosina. Baroness Hollins has written extensively on safeguarding failure and mental health abuse, and Rachel Maskell is a local MP in York, and those female voices could be very helpful to me in this crisis I'm in. So I feel very saddened that they have remained quiet. Obviously, just regarding the Professional Standards Agency, thank you for contacting me, although the link to Samaritans wasn't particularly helpful. I understand this is out of your jurisdiction to intervene, but I just wanted to reply to you to say that it's not out of your jurisdiction to review this case for the following reasons: that I have documented very, very serious patient safety concerns throughout my campaign across numerous trusts about ignoring abnormal pathology when I'm in this much pain, denying me support and care when I'm in crisis, and there have been numerous incidents, particularly the patient safety incident at Northumbria NHS, where I was returned 2 sealed bottles of whiskey that I used in my suicide attempt. These requests that I've made to regulatory bodies are serious requests, and their silence over the 44 days is effectively being complicit in the harm and protecting it by not intervening, and that doesn't just compromise my safety, it compromises patient safety across the whole NHS network. So as you are the regulator of those regulatory bodies, whilst you can't, I understand you can't help me personally, that's out of your jurisdiction, it is still your business, I think, and within your interest to help with the larger picture of trying to ensure that what has happened to me with this statewide systemic neglect doesn't repeat itself. Because if regulatory bodies remain silent with disclosures like this, it shows that they're turning a blind eye to very, very serious patient safety alerts. And as you said, your job is to protect the public. Regulatory bodies are to protect the public, and they are not protecting the public if they're ignoring these alerts. And as the regulator of those regulators, it is therefore in your interest to look into this silence, this conglomerate of silence. Me aside, I mean, if you take me out of the picture, what a story like this highlights is a need for a paradigm shift, because as long as this kind of institutional silence continues, we will be forever trapped in a lessons have been learnt culture where we accept these platitudes and there's never any accountability or change for patients. And that is, I think, within your jurisdiction. You have powers to maybe look at parliamentary review of cases like this, about systemic change, because that's what I've really been campaigning for. But as regards the link to the Samaritans, that was a little bit insulting when I'm this deeply in crisis. So that didn't feel applicable, but I may submit something to you, as you've invited me to, with feedback. But there does still feel like a role for you in the systemic, in the view of systemic change, and how we can implement that. And by asking very, very important questions, again, if you take me out the picture, in a non-aggressive, non-violent and non-blaming way, it's a very important question you need to ask, which is, how has this happened? How has this much neglect and harm and complicity been unflagged and gone unchecked for 12 years with my case? You know, there's a cog in the system somewhere that's not working, that's allowed this to happen. And the question is, how have the defences in our system failed so dramatically to catch this and to help me and to protect me from what has been, you know, statewide harm? And that's about systems and defences, and a much bigger conversation that I think needs to happen to prevent harm coming to future patients, and to improve patient safety across the NHS network, and to ensure that the public really are protected. And that these kind of incidents I've been reporting about, abnormal scans being ignored and returning, you know, lethal substances to me after a suicide attempt, and falsifying of records, discharging me from care post a suicide attempt, these kind of incidents can be used to improve generic generic change for other patients, maybe not in isolation, but with other cases. So I do feel there's a role for you, and I do feel it's your business. This regulatory silence of 44 days, I think, is your business. So I just want to say that I've become aware that there's been an attempt by the NHS to censor my campaign. I've become aware that I think particularly TED's legal teams, I think, are frontlining this, and lots of other NHS trusts, and potentially NHS England. I don't know if it's coming from a central force or from individual trusts, but it appears that there's been numerous requests to Google on the right to be forgotten, meaning that numerous links to my ex-posts have been removed from Google. There's also a sign under my Twitter page on Bing and Yahoo saying that Bing have been forbidden from crawling my my X page, which is a high-level block. There are actually no links at all on Google of any of my X posts during my campaign where there's a name connected to me and any NHS trusts. All of the links on Google are now generic posts from years ago. There's nothing. They've all been removed, and they're removed quite quickly, particularly the TEV posts. When I posted that post about being in Cornwall and not feeling like I could go to A&E because it would get sent back to TEV, that was indexed by Google that morning, but it was removed that night. Again, the same with the Ampleforth surgery post, which is a very, very important post about my withdrawal from the practice, where I uploaded my letter of withdrawal. That was a very important post because it documented how since withdrawal the practice have been contacting me for reviews, which is trying to sanitise the record and make it look like I'm not engaging. And those posts are very important firewalls against me, for me, against any accusations of not engaging. But that too has come down from Google. So I don't know if Ampleforth are involved in requesting these rights to be forgotten. But it does seem that there have been numerous requests to Google to remove links. This has meant that my campaign is now pretty much there's a huge decrease in visibility of my campaign. There's a decrease in visibility of my pleas for help for the mental health support. There's a decrease in visibility now of documentation of statewide harm, documented harm. And there's also now a removal and an eclipse of calls for accountability and transparency, which I've been calling for, which is in the public interest. These have all been now increasingly, they're invisible. So effectively, that's a form of censorship. It's obviously to try and sanitise the record from the NHS and to protect reputational management and its institutional convenience. But it's in effect obscuring the course of justice, because I'm calling for accountability about some very, very serious harm that I'm entitled to request. And by requesting these rights to be forgotten, where my links are being removed at a rapid pace, that's being censored and quietened. I think TEV's legal team are working very, very hard on this. It seems to be they're the front runners. All of my TEV posts have been de-indexed. So, but this isn't just eclipsing my visibility for my campaign, it's also eclipsing my visibility as a writer. Because every time a link comes down from Google, my latest posts come down from X. So it's really, really eclipsing. And that block on Bing not being allowed to crawl my site, that's a high level block. So this is extremely serious. It's a form of institutional suppression and censorship on top of the harm, on top of the complicity, and now on top of the regulatory silence. Like I said, I don't know if NHS England have requested these rights to be forgotten, or whether it's just TEV and individual trusts. But there are now very few links, if any, of my ex posts connecting my name with these NHS trusts. I don't know if they've been applying for takedowns of links to TikTok. I don't know if that's something they've started doing. It seems to be mainly X, where my links. I hope, though I don't know, I'm not aware that any of my ex posts have actually been deleted. I hope they haven't, and I hope that if there was any concern that X would contact me first, but I don't think there's been any X posts deleted. But it's the links to my posts on Google which has made my campaign increasingly invisible. I think what is so heartbreaking about this is I've made 4 requests publicly to Penny Dash and the Department of Health and Social Care for urgent mental health support. I've been very transparent that I'm still in a suicidal crisis and struggling, and they've ignored that. And instead of intervening to save my life, they're pouring money into legal teams to suppress my campaign and suppress my voice, suppress evidence of harm. And yeah, that's tragic, really. And it seems to back up what I've been saying about this being a potential cover-up, because why are they doing this? Why are they requesting these rights to be forgotten at such a rapid pace? But that's what's been happening. That's been my discovery. So I haven't just been ignored with regulatory silence. I'm now facing suppression, institutional suppression, particularly with TEV. Obviously, in light of this discovery, I've decided to curtail the campaign. It's my feeling, the TEV lawyers are working hard, I think, with this. And my feeling is, or my fear is that TEV and other NHS trusts will escalate this to try and get my social accounts potentially shut down to cover this evidence of harm that I've been documenting. And I can't risk that because X and TikTok are platforms that I treasure. They give me access to community, particularly the chronic pain community and trauma-survived community and survivor-led advocates like myself. And to lose that would diminish the quality of my kind of communications, really, and connections. And it also risks the takedown of my archive. And I do think it's a very real possibility that TEV will start putting pressure on X and other NHS trusts will start putting pressure on them to get this takedown. I think they're desperate to hide this. I really do. And I can't risk that because, as I said, they're platforms I treasure. X has been my social media home for 3 years. It's where I've learned to speak. I'm not very good at it, but it's where I've learned to speak, and it's a platform that I really do treasure. And particularly TikTok, it's been my campaign surprise. I thought that I was kind of gate crashing the party really when I started posting on there, just because at 52 I felt a bit too old to be on there, and documenting kind of harm and grief and accountability, I felt like I was out of place. But I've been really surprised and deeply touched and overwhelmed really by the swell of support and solidarity by followers and viewers on TikTok. It's been where my comfort and refuge has come from, and the risk of losing that is too great. If these NHS trusts tried to get my accounts closed down as an escalation. My archive on TikTok is particularly beautiful because of the silent diaries. They're actually works of art. They're not just words. They have music accompanied with them, which is a partnership with TikTok. Obviously, it's the sound that they provide. But TikTok has a wonderful sound archive, and I've managed to partner a lot of my diaries with some very beautiful sound, which amplifies the deep sadness of my story. And I don't want to lose that, because that's my artwork, really. So today is my final post. I've cut the campaign short because of censorship and the threat of a possible takedown from TEV and other NHS trusts. I just want to address the 4 platforms who are currently hosting my archive, just as a defence really, and to reiterate what my campaign's been about. Because my greatest fear is that TEV and other NHS trusts will try to get my archive removed, and the NHS as an organisation. So I just want to kind of reiterate why I want, to ask you to keep the archive open if that happens, whether I'm here or whether if my story ends in tragedy and I can't hold on anymore and I'm no longer here, I obviously won't be here to defend myself. So I just wanted to say some things about my archive and to make a generic request to X, TikTok, Vimeo and YouTube to please keep my archive open. So my campaign's been about seeking help for my medical condition and for my mental health, which has failed. I haven't received it. I haven't had any response. But it's also been a campaign raised in the public interest to push for reform, systemic reform, and an end to systemic neglect. It's been about promoting urgent patient safety reform, and it's been about calling for greater accountability and transparency within the NHS. And it's also been about mental health, about trying to improve crisis care across the NHS network so that other patients aren't left without support like I have been. The campaign documents statewide institutional harm. As you know, there's 19 NHS trusts, 2 local authorities and a GP practice, which is statewide harm. And that harm has been documented with evidence. And institutional harm is everybody's business. And if the archive is removed, it limits the possibility for reformers in the future from finding my work to promote reform. So I am therefore asking sincerely that if any requests or pressure comes through from TEV or other NHS trusts or NHS England or regulatory bodies or MPs or anyone, I really am asking you to please keep this open in the public interest to try and help promote reform. I also just want to obviously defend myself against some potential claims. If TEV are to claim that the mental health videos are promoting self-harm, I just want to be very clear. They're not. They're documenting mental health neglect. And they come with very significant trigger warnings, and they're not just warnings that flash up on screen. The mental health videos have been produced and edited by professional filmmakers in London. There's been a team of 5, and they have inserted 2 minutes into the videos, the mental health videos, a very stern content warning, which remains on screen for 60 seconds. And this gives viewers the option whether to continue viewing. On the last video I did, which is an incredibly heavy video, there's a call to action page at the end with a link to 15 mental health helplines. So I have certainly protected viewers from being triggered. the images that I use of the returning of the whiskey bottle that NHS Northumbria gave back to me are not sensationalising or promoting harm. They're flagging very, very serious patient safety incidents to try and ensure that that doesn't happen again. So they're not promoting harm or sensationalising harm. So yeah, those mental health videos. And I've also, you know, respected community guidelines, you know, stringently on TikTok, on X, with those videos, with additional trigger warnings on the actual captions. But also on TikTok, I've been adding captions within the video. So there's pre-edited content warnings, but then when I have uploaded onto TikTok, I've been adding captions to protect viewers and from, you know, reiterating the message about reform, patient safety reform. So I've done everything in my power to protect viewers, and you know, they're not about promoting harm. So I just want to say that if TEV are to try and use that argument against me. I just also want to make it very clear that I don't know what grounds these rights to be forgotten have been requested, but I'm assuming they're requested on the grounds of defamation, slander and data protection breaches. So I just want to go over those. So no clinicians have been named in any of my videos or any of my posts. There are no, all of the medical documents that I've uploaded onto X and into my videos have had the clinicians' names redacted in thick black ink. There are no physical descriptions of any clinicians that could identify them, and I haven't spoken ill of any clinicians. I've also not spoken ill of any institutions, and as I stated in my introductory video, I have stated the facts as they happened, which is what I've done. The facts are shocking, they're uncomfortable, they're alarming, but they're the facts. And I've also backed up the facts with evidence, and I've also expressed my feelings about those facts, which have made the videos highly emotional, but they are the facts. And if the NHS don't like the facts, that isn't my problem, that's theirs. But they, you know, no clinicians have been named or spoken ill of. The tone of my posts on X and the captions on TikTok and the way I speak in the videos is not defamatory or slanderous. They are stating facts. And I've been very, very clear from the outset that my intention has never been to dehumanise NHS trusts or clinicians. It's been to try and highlight the dangers of systemic neglect. And there's a difference. So I have, and you know, that post recently that's been de-indexed from Google about the collusion triangle with Tees, Eskom Wares, North Yorkshire County Council and Ampleforth Surgery, I think TEV have possibly made a claim of defamation about that. So I just want to make it very clear that that was stated on facts. You know, it looks likely that the TEV psychiatrist did call through to Ampleforth Surgery to get that record removed, but I'm going to be talking about that in the last bit of my video, not now. So yeah, the tone of, I mean, I think I've sworn twice in 2 videos, but they've both been beeped out. But there is, you know, there isn't. And in terms of data protection breaches, all of the documents that I've uploaded, the medical documents into the videos and onto X in my posts are my documents. I own them. They're my medical records. Yes, they belong to the hospitals, but they're my records, including my scans. So I haven't breached data protection laws by publishing them on X and Twitter. They belong to me. So I feel that any possible allegations that have been made to the search engines about defamation, slander and data protection breaches are defunct. And if they're making claims about reputational disrepute, that's not my intention. I am stating the facts. If that brings reputational dispute, that's not my responsibility. I am stating the facts of the harm caused. I've the dates, everything is timestamped, what happened, and it's backed up with evidence on every post and every video. That is fact. That's not defamation. So if trusts are concerned about reputational thing, then and the same with Charing Cross Hospital, with my concerns about the potential deletion of files, you know, this is a serious potential issue that needs investigating if evidence has been concealed. And if Charing Cross Hospital don't like the fact that this is bringing disrepute, that's not my problem. I've been clear, it's not an accusation, it's a concern based on the evidence which I've uploaded. So that I just want to make that clear, and to ask the platforms, please, if there are any requests or pressures on you from the NHS to remove my archive, it is in the public interest to keep this archive live for potential reform, patient safety reform, greater accountability and transparency within the NHS, an end to the lessons have been learnt culture, and improved crisis care with mental health. So I just wanted to say that. I guess I just want to lastly say, as this is my final post, this has now become untenable, because this isn't now about medical neglect, institutional harm, regulatory silence, and complicity between trusts. It's now about institutional suppression. I'm having my voice suppressed. And that is terrifying. And it really has left me with nowhere to go. I explained in that post about the collusion triangle with Tees Eskom Wares and North Yorkshire County Council and Ampleforth Surgery. And I just want to retouch on that, about why I'm in such a dangerous predicament. Because those three organisations really should have been protecting me from all of this stuff that's been going on at these hospitals. And what they've done instead is, so North Yorkshire County Council assessed me as having statutory care needs in 2022, but and I had some support in place, which was a lifeline for me. But a social worker who took over my case in 2023 just turned up at my house one day and just announced she was stopping my support. They didn't reassess me, they just cut it. At a time when that gaslighting incident happened at York, they just stopped my support. And that was very dangerous. And they also went against guidance from my GP and psychiatric liaison, who told them not to. But I had previously in Calderdale, where I was living for 16 years, social care in place. And whilst the medical issues were still going on, having that social care in place helped keep me safe. And it helped me to cope better, having that wonderful authority on my side in Calderdale. But because North Yorkshire County Council have removed it, and even when the police referred me back to them in 2023, all they did was send a non-statutory living well worker around for 3 visits and then shut the file again. And they've obviously denied me safeguarding twice on recommendation from a PPN from the police and from the CQC. I've had no safety or protection from North Yorkshire County Council. Obviously, Tees Eskom Wares Valleys Trust have removed and cut off all psychological and psychiatric support. And they've also, as I mentioned, there was an incident which does suggest complicity in the tampering of my records. On the 8th of December, I confided in a TEV CMHT psychiatrist about a comment I'd seen on my records saying scan abnormal to be expected, no further action. And 4 hours later, Ampleforth Surgery had locked me out of my records and amended that comment to no review applicable. Now, the psychiatrist claims that he wrote to the practice about that comment, but I remember the incident well, and that letter that he wrote didn't reach the practice till the following Wednesday, because I remember chasing it because he was asking them for some sleep medication. But they changed it within 4 hours. I was locked out within 4 hours, which does really indicate that he potentially called through to give them a heads up. And TEV have also said in their discharge summary, Felicia thinks NHS bodies are colluding with each other. So what that's doing is it's possibly being complicit in record tampering, but it's also putting the responsibility on me by making me the problem. And then there's also been the record tampering with Ampleforth Surgery, amending that comment, deleting visits of me going to A&E, and other amendments. There's been numerous other amendments retrospective amendments that I have documented, which I think in part has been to protect TEV from discharging me from their care. And then TEV's crisis team worker told North Yorkshire County Council on the 6th of March 2025 to close down a safeguarding concern, which they did. So that, in my mind, constitutes very severe institutional complicity. And that's not defamation, it's fact. All these things have happened. There is therefore no refuge for me with where I am, because these three organisations, this is what they've done. They've withdrawn support and they've been doing this. So being that there's no refuge for me, and now I've got what's seemingly a censorship campaign against my campaign, with these links being taken down on Google to my ex posts, I'm obviously facing, you know, this very real suppression, which is a double whammy on top of the harm and the pain I'm in. I'm in very severe pain, and it just feels untenable. Very frightening. I feel very threatened, particularly by Ted's legal team. I think it's them who are requesting these rights to be forgotten. And it's therefore a great concern to me that I'm not going to make it, because I've got nowhere to go with this. You know, I've got this regulatory silence, no one's intervened, there's nobody helping me. And that's a lot. I mean, could you survive that? You know, 12 years, 19 NHS trusts, being in unbearable physical pain, having no mental health support whilst in crisis, having all of these institutions colluding with each other with these actions, and then a regulatory silence, and then an attempt to suppress an online campaign to try and get urgent mental health support and help, and have that suppressed. It's too much. No one can hold that. I mean, can they? Could you? I mean, it's a big ask of me, and I'm not superhuman. And, you know, the only way out is suicide keeps presenting as the only way out. I don't know, where am I supposed to go with this? So I will do what I can to preserve my life. I mean, I believe in the preservation of life. I'm a good person. I deserve to live despite this filth and this rot that I'm up against with these institutions. But, you know, I'm a good person, and I will do what I can to preserve my life. But this is what I want to say as a closing comment. If in the event that I don't make it, I want to make it clear that it won't be because of mental illness. I don't have a mental illness. I'm in a life-threatening crisis because of harm caused by these institutions. It won't be as a result of cowardice. I'm not a coward, or weakness, or defiance. If I go, it will be because I can't carry this on my own anymore. It's too heavy. And it will be a way of putting it down and walking away. And that's not mental illness. That's not cowardice. That's not instability. And if that happens, I don't want their complicity and their failings being pathologised as my instability. Because if that happens, I lose not only my life, but my integrity. And my integrity, I may not have a lot to shout about, but I know I've got that. I know where I'm from. I know who raised me. So I guess I want to say as a closing comment that I will do what I can to preserve my life against this oppression, this statewide oppression. But if I don't make it, it's not mental illness, it's not instability, it's not a complex case, it's not weakness, it's not cowardice, it's not defiance. It's the result of institutional harm, institutional complicity, institutional silence, and institutional suppression. And I am asking that that is heard and understood with the reverence and the respect that it deserves. Thank you very much.